Welcome. Thanks for joining me. Part 5 of designing a trailer for my motorcycle in Blender. The parts, the objects that we create in Blender from primitives, cubes and cylinders are coming together to form the basis of a complete model. The side frame, the chassis of the trailer would rotate about some drop links and tilt the whole trailer so that the leading edge is close to the floor. All that needs now is for the centre spine, the channel for the bike to roll in as it mounts the trailer. All it needs is for that centre spine channel to either lower to the floor completely or to tilt slightly. So let's have a look at how we're progressing with animating these primitives, the objects we've created in Blender. Here we are in Blender looking at the model trailer in all its glory. Each part of the trailer is made up of a primitive or primitives. These primitives, as you may well have gathered if you watched previous parts, are meshes, either cubes or cylinders. Once you bring an object into the scene, it can then be stretched and scaled and moved and rotated, duplicated and possibly welded to another part, all covered in previous parts of this series. As I move the mouse across the parts, if I left click the mouse, then we see the part highlighted in orange. So each part, we start to see each part is coloured just for clarity. Some parts are made up of multi-objects welded together. And some parts are just separate entities. A new addition to this display we're looking at today is the lower part, and this part, lower third of the screen, is used for animation. You notice there are keyframes linked to each part. This upright, this green tubular upright, has no keyframes, so nothing's going to happen. Similarly, the toe ball hitch, although we can manipulate it, move it, stretch it, rotate it, scale it, it has no keyframes, so nothing's meant to happen. When I click on the winch handle, we see that there are a number of keyframes. What are keyframes? Well, a part is at rest until you assign a movement to it. And then you right-click the mouse and from the drop-down menu you insert a keyframe, and that keyframe takes into account the position, the rotation, the scale. So if you have movement of one part, it'll assign a keyframe to that movement, taking into account the moves you've made. At the end of this little information screen, we see there's a start and an end with numbers 1 to whatever we want to decide. We can change that number. I've got 400 frames in this little animation. Why 400? Well, it's just for clarity. I wanted some pauses at various times throughout the animation, and I wanted to see the whole animation. So what we're going to see in this cartoon-like form is the movement of the parts of the trailer to allow the motorcycle to be pushed up this centre spine ramp. Excuse me. Pushed up this centre spine ramp. So, talking you through it, we'll see the blue outer frame, which would be unclipped or unbolted of a yet to be defined mechanism, rotated to allow the centre spine to lower to the floor for the bike to roll on. So we'll see the outer frame lift up, the winch lowering the spine frame to the floor, and then we would imagine the motorcycle rolling on into the chock, and then the frame would revert back to normal position. So let's just see that. I'll click on this left arrow to zero the animation. Now let's have a look at it. Outer frame rotates, winch lowers the spine to the floor, motorcycle goes on, and the frame and spine are lifted. Notice if we use this navigation axis, we can see this rotation from almost any position we want, which is useful if we're trying to see if things get in each other's way or interact. This animation is only useful up to a point. This isn't a real world application yet. But it does give us the flexibility of seeing exactly what's happening. If any parts are going to get in the way of each other. So seeing the spine lift and lower using the winch, we start to get an idea of exactly what's what on the trailer. Is it easy to create an animation? Relatively. You just move the part or rotate it, insert a keyframe, we can see what's happening at each point. So we're getting close to making some real world decisions, i.e. how does the locking mechanism for all the trailer parts actually work, because it is going to be a trailer that's going to carry a 400-pound motorcycle of some value at reasonable speeds on motorways. So it has to be substantial. We don't want the bike ending up on the motorway for the sake of a locking mechanism failing. So I guess that's the long thought process that will now need to be considered. And we're still considering the drop link, the position, the length. We can just see the drop link, which this light blue drop link, it governs how low the trailer is now and how easy it is to lower the bed to the floor. The length of the drop link is very crucial. So that's all to be considered in the near future. But thanks for watching so far, and join me again soon when we explore more designing a trailer in Blender.